Yo, hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to Jason Unleashed. Hey, Jason Carter here. Thank you so much for watching and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Great show, guys, because my guest is activist, actress, producer, and CEO. We love her from Pose. We love her from American Horror Story. Angelica Ross is in the building. Yes, I had to come through for you guys in season 3, and I am honored and excited to talk to this incredible human being about her journey, her career, everything she's working on, everything. Her Miss Ross channel on YouTube, The Turning Point, just so many great things she has going on that we're going to get into. So you guys stick around because it's going to be a great conversation. Just waiting for it to come into the chat. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the question box down below and I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. Hey, Joe, I'm waving at everyone. Hey, Eric, waving at everyone that's here into it. Hey, Amy. And guys, thank you, of course, as always, for your support. I really appreciate it. Hey, Daniela, I do this for you. It's always great to connect and have conversations and really just get to talk to these people who I'm a fan of, who you guys are fans of, and to bring them to you and let you experience them like I do. So it's cool. Just waiting for Angelica to step into the room. Let me just keep waving and wave and wave, wave, wave. Wave, and it's raining again in Miami. It's really cool how it waves here, like on the drop of a dime. However, it's kind of crazy. Okay, cool. She hasn't stepped in yet. Maybe I'm early. I'm always. My mom says if you're early, you're late. Hi from Chile. Chile. All right, let's go and get Angelica. Jason Unleashed. As you guys can tell, I still haven't got a connection song. It's never happening. Angelica.
Hello there.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I am great. Welcome to Jason Unleashed. Glad to have you on the show.
Look at us both wearing red.
We look kindred spirits. Kindred spirits. I felt your vibes.
I do have that kind of energy.
You absolutely do. Good to see you. How you holding up? How's life?
Life is actually pretty good. I'm breathing much more easily these days after the election is over. So
Same.
very, very grateful for that. I've had a couple nights rest where I just slept very deeply. And I'm very grateful for that.
I love it. I have to ask you this. I'm just gonna get right to it. Earlier this year, you told Self Magazine that you're on this journey of self-discovery. What have you discovered about yourself?
I discovered that I'm a bad bitch. That's what I discovered. With or without all of the extraness. And that's a great place to be in as an actor, because, for me as a trans actor, I've had to go on an interesting journey because I was stealth in the beginning of my acting career. And so to be stealth meaning like no one knew I was trans.
Right.
And so because of that fact, when I was acting in certain roles, I was limiting myself and my performance in fear of what people would see or hear.
Yeah.
And so I was really scared of like, is my scream on point? Like, is that feminine enough for folks? Do I got an Adam's apple? Are they seeing that? Like how close is the camera getting on me? To being at a point where like I recently did an audition for something. And it was the first time I had just felt so amazing with no makeup on, and I didn't even tint my eyebrows, which my eyebrows today are a little tinted brown, but they
look great. They look
thank you very
amazing.
much. But I have bleached my eyebrows brown when I had bleached my hair, so it was much shorter. My hair was much shorter than it is now, and was blonde, and my eyebrows were blonde. And I just looked at myself on the tape, and I was just like, wow, like I just look so different. And it made me realize that I could play and do anything now at this point. At this point now, they can put any kind of color hair on me or not. And I can be an android robot for in the future or something like that. But I've now made myself like a mannequin or more pliable to play any role as an actor.
You're a muse. You're a chameleon. That's
Yes.
I mean, and that's what an actor is. Let's talk about your life, though. We're gonna get into everything. We're gonna get into Pose, American Horror Story, everything. Your new deal with Pigeon. You're busy. But let's take it back. to before the fame, before the lights, before the glamour, before the stardom. You're this Midwest girl, grew up from Wisconsin, evangelical household. The journey of becoming Angelica Ross, from the beginning to your journey as a trans woman, take us through that, because I don't think a lot of people get the opportunity to have it from the horse's mouth. You know, we see shows like Pose, we read articles, we see the somewhat performative actions on social media in regards to what's happening with our trans brothers and sisters, but we never get it from a person who lives and walks and is of that experience. So tell us about your life and the journey you've been on.
Well, to tell you all of that, you'd have to buy the book, honey. But but yes, but which is, you know, in process right now. You know, it's interesting because, like as you mentioned before, I have this development deal with Pigeon, and we're working on a show right now that is loosely based off my life. And so the writing rooms, going into that writing room has been so interesting. Every time we go in the writing room, I leave like I don't know, a little just weighted. There's so much, and there is for me there is an importance in telling the story and in telling the earlier parts of the story, because so many people are just caught up in the now of it all. Like,
Right.
I'm a celebrity now. I, you know, am pretty now, you know, and all these things or whatever. But I've been through some not so pretty moments. I've been through
Sure.
some not so pretty times. And those times are honestly the times that made me. And so, you know, growing up in a Pentecostal actually church, in the Church of God in Christ, I grew up singing in the church choir. I grew up with music, and for me, I am extremely grateful that I grew up in the church and that I grew up with music the way that I did, because that is how I was introduced to God, in the sense that I, regardless of what people tell you in a church or in any of that, when you come across certain things like music, there are a few other things, but like music was for me the one thing that, with or without words, I saw it as a spiritual gift. I saw it, you know, like me singing and doing all these things that I did at the time. I learned to play piano by ear in the fourth grade. I,
Wow.
you know, sight read, I play guitar, I do all these things. And when I would sing, you know, for me at those times, it was very much like communion with God. It was me having a conversation with my
I get
spirit.
that. Yeah, I
You
get
know,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, when you're an LGBTQ kid and you actually get to experience, before the full lesson is sort of lands, that you're an abomination, you're this, that, and the other, if you get a chance to actually have that, the connection for real, then what happened for me, fortunately, was I was able to hold on to the true connection in spirituality versus what everybody else was saying.
Hmm.
So the fact that people were telling me that I'm an abomination, or that I'm possessed by the devil or some spirit, when I know the conversation to be completely different with God that
Hmm.
I'm having
Hmm.
right now, and
Hmm.
it ain't don't feel nothing like what you talking about,
Right.
you know. So I for me, it was a reconciliation of understanding that the church, the Christian church, did not have context for my spirit.
Right.
It did not have context for my gift. That I, you know, so luckily the universe in my life and the journey turned out the way that it did, that I was able to find context for my gift. For me, I was able to find that context in Buddhism, and that allowed me to be free of all the sort of like
The,
small minded,
yeah.
yeah, sort of like the small-minded perceptions of God and what God is and how God operates, to now
Well,
being in a place to understanding that I am just like the book of John and the book of Job and the book of whatever, Matthew. I'm the book of Angelica, and there's a lot to be learned from my journey, just as there's a lot to be learned from Jason's journey.
agreed. And with Buddhism, how did you see a radical, immediate shift in all that once you started practicing Buddhism regularly, and once you really enveloped that in your life?
I wish that I could say it more emphatically. I wish that I don't even know if I've said the words, but there honestly is no single event in my life. Um, the way that I was brought to Buddhism was through what I call breadcrumbs. And it was really because my mind probably couldn't take the full onslaught of someone trying to sell me Buddhism, especially coming from a place of, religion. I remember when in my ex-fiance, his mother was struggling with cancer. And I remember him giving me a book that helped his mother through her battle with cancer, and it was like unlocking the mysteries of birth and death, and it was talking about like karma and all these kind of things or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't want to hear it, I didn't want to read it, and I'm trying to drag my ex to different churches, because that's what I knew, that's what I was brought up in. Fast forward, to present day now, and that book is something I read all the time because it was written by the president of the Buddhist organization that I'm a part of. So it was something that it was set right in front of me at a time, and I was like, I don't even see it. I
Hmm.
didn't even want to hear it or listen to it. So it had to come to me through these breadcrumbs of breaking down my understanding, which started with a book called The Voice of Knowledge.
Hmm.
And but people are more so they know the book, The Four Agreements.
For agreements, yes.
So The Four Agreements was written by Don Miguel Ruiz. He also wrote another book called The Voice of Knowledge. And The Voice of Knowledge was a book that my therapist gave me a long time ago when before Buddhism, before all this stuff. And it got me to understand that that voice in my head was not my own.
Also, but breadcrumbs, having it's much like a trauma, right? When you live in an environment that is abusive and violent, and look, violence isn't always physical. There's violence that through words.
Spiritual
So
violence, yeah.
absolutely. So breadcrumbs is like the baby steps, because the trauma of what you've experienced, it's a lot, and you're defensive. You've erected this defense mechanism everywhere to be safe in a space that isn't safe. So I can completely understand why it was a slow process to Buddhism, but now you have interweaved that through every facet of your life, it seems.
It's interesting because the practice talks about becoming a votary of the Lotus Sutra, or it talks about like how you kind of live it with your life. But there's this interesting when you talk about like one of the things that happened to me early on in the practice, so it's like, oh, when you started practicing Buddhism, do you see this ultimate like change? And yes, you do. But what it does is it wakes you up in this way that your life doesn't become perfect. It's like all of a sudden now I'm Buddhist and now I don't have any problems. It actually gets a little harder in the
Hmm.
beginning
Hmm.
because we're a society that's used to numbing ourselves, or we're used to this what we call pain management.
Hmm.
So whether that's through medications, whether that's through chiropractic pain management, all these different things around pain management. And Buddhism gives you a different relationship with pain to understand that it is a signal, and it is information.
Hmm.
So when there is pain in the body, it's a signal that something is wrong there, something needs attention. But also learning that pain, it can be transmuted. Pain can be turned into medicine. So Buddhism is a practice of healing and learning how to heal yourself from all these various what we call fundamental darknesses. You having a certain perception of your life that's setting you off in a way that's not seeing the things for yourself. So for instance, I have this thing in my I'm gonna show you just like in the back corner there. There's like my little wooden boots down cabinet that I chant to or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, it has my altar situation. 5 years ago, I was sharing I was sharing a house with 4 other roommates in Los Angeles working for Apple. And that area was right next to my bed. That's when I first started chanting. There was moments when I wasn't chanting and I would look over at that area and there would be dirty napkins and what I would just call debris just outside my altar on the table or whatnot. And your practice gets so much so that even when you're not practicing or even when you're not, so we called that thing a mirror. The
Mm-hmm.
Gohanzen is like a mirror that we chant to. So when I'm not sitting in front of that mirror,
You're connected.
I'm connected in such a way that everything is bouncing a reflection off to me. So when I look at that crap and debris outside of my Gohanzen, that was my life.
Yeah.
That was my life condition, just in a certain way that I started to see all the things different, the clutter in my life. I couldn't unsee the things. It's kind of like that show Woke on,
Mm-hmm.
I just started watching the show Woke on Hulu. I told myself, ain't no way I'm watching no damn show called Woke. I'm woke, but seeing the show, it's an amazing show. And it's one of these things where the black character like kind of hits his head, or gets accustomed by the cops and has an experience that's traumatizing, but then you can't unsee.
Right.
And so that's what this process of Buddhism is that a lot of people, we lie to ourselves every day. We do a lot of things. This process it actually pushes you and challenges you to be radical in your honesty with yourself and with others. So anything I desire, I don't care what it is, a man, a car, or whatever. We're the sect of Buddhism that people make fun of sometimes because they're like, oh, you're that sect of Buddhism that chants for new cars, or you're that chants for money or chants for certain things. And the answer is
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. I want the car, the
Yes, of
bags.
course.
Why not?
Why not? But it's one of those things that when you are in front of the altar or in front of a mirror that's going to show you everything clearly, why not bring up every single thing that you desire
Leave no
so that
stone
you can
unturned.
actually see it clearly to know, is this what I really want?
Right. And again, it takes bravery to do that because people are afraid to ask for what they want, and but they're also afraid to confront what they don't want in their lives. So I think it's a win-win all around. Radical though, you said radical. Radical is and it's so interesting you bring up that word radical because I see you and radical is a good thing. How do the characters you play are just that, right? Are very disruptors, and not in a way that's like, but make you think, make you feel some that resonate. Let me take these out that resonate with audiences. How did you arrive in Los Angeles and embark on this career that has seen you make history? Can you hear me? That has seen you make history as the first trans woman to secure 2 leading roles on the show. Where did that start? How did that journey occur?
To be honest, I've always had this dream of moving to LA, to Hollywood, and becoming an actor and doing all of these things. For those out there listening, I want you to hear me when I say this, because there's so many people who dream about Hollywood and all that has to offer.
Yeah.
I went on a really detoured journey to becoming me, and then realized it was about the detour.
Mm-hmm.
And realized that when I got to Los Angeles in 2010, and I was like, okay, I started working for Apple. I found roommates. I thought, okay, now I'm going to start auditioning and doing my whole thing. And then I had a life situation come up where my mom was ill and I needed to go back to the Midwest to take care of her. And so I remember crying in front of my altar with my other Buddhist people as we were chanting, knowing that when I got that information that my mom was sick, the first thought that came up to me was, I don't care if she lives or dies. And I just remember saying to myself, oh shit, well girl, that's a little harsh. Yeah, I mean, you sure? Yeah, that's a little cold. And so I knew that I had to deal with that.
Yeah.
And it took me then moving back to Wisconsin, staying with my parents for a little while, then getting my own place, working for Apple remotely, getting a job, running a job development program in Chicago for a couple years, founding Trans Tech, doing all of these things that I thought was taking me away from my goals, away from my dreams.
Yeah.
But all it was doing was contextualizing it. All it was doing was that making sure that when they said action, I had a lot to pull from.
With that said, wow. With that said, though, on the subject of your mom, when you went back to take care of her, was that a time of healing of both yours and hers relationship as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and again, when I talk about one word that is consistent in our Buddhist practice is courageous, because it does take a lot of courage to do this kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
So going back home with my mom and bringing up things that she doesn't want me to bring up, our family, I don't want to talk about that,
right.
or
Under the
why
rug.
you got to bring this up, or, this, that, and the third. But I had to continue to push my mom to be able to talk about it, because I kept telling her, I was like, listen, do you think I'm bringing up the fact that you told me to kill myself to just keep pushing on you to make you feel bad? No, I want you to realize you're not alone. Mm-hmm. That there have been so many parents who don't see the gift that their children are, that have been given to them. So many people out here either having miscarriages and having all kind of things, and yet you don't see the gift that your LGBT child is. And so by being honest about your experience, you're going to help a lot of people heal. And I spoke this into existence to her back in 2010, whenever that was, to now then just 2019 or 18 or so, just last year or so, me and her being on the Oprah Winfrey Network on Black Women Own the Conversation, mm-hmm. and her truth, as hard as it was for her to own and talk about, changed so many people's lives. I can't tell you how many people have talked to me about that clip.
It was incredible. I mean, and on the global stage, that resonated, because we always talk about wanting to see someone that's like ourselves or of our experience, right? What in the Black community, LGBTQ plus, even now, is still a thing that people like you said, don't talk about it under the rug. Your gay uncle, oh, he's not coming to the reunion this year. There's a lot of generational, again, trauma and lack of awareness and a lack of dealing with it. It's a vicious cycle that goes on and on and on. So people watching that, I saw it as well. People watching that resonated with that little guy that's probably from Kenosha, Wisconsin, that has gone through the same thing, that's looking for that glimmer of hope or whatever that is, that's going to let him know that, hey, I'm not alone in some capacity. It was powerful, Angelica. It was absolutely powerful.
Thank you so much. And I honestly, for years, in a very blasphemous way, and I'm going to be very blasphemous for a second here, but like in a very blasphemous way, I prepared my mother in these moments, because back in those times, I remember when I was helping her get better, there was an argument we had at one point. I remember her throwing a cup at me of water, throwing a cup, because it just got that kind of tense. But I told her, I said, Mom, I don't mean to say it like this, but I just feel that you are just as important as Mary, Jesus's mother, in the sense that, like, I know I'm here to do great. I know I'm here to change the world. I can feel it. I'm on purpose. Mm-hmm. But I know that you're a part of that purpose. And I had to get her to wake up to that purpose when she thought her ministry was baking cakes or frying chicken at the church or whatever it is, on Sundays, when your ministry is in how you love your children and showing the world how to love children that you don't understand, or maybe that you don't, that you didn't, that are LGBT or any of that. But, for me, it's so similar. It vibrates with the same energy as the moment that I'm standing across from my TV mom on Pose, mm-hmm. and having that reconciling moment with my TV mom, and her just saying these words, I missed you.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and that broke so many. I mean, that
What?
scene.
Hey, look, Angelica. Let's talk about Pose though, because this show, you know, when before it premiered, we've had Paris is Burning for over 30 years now, right? Which is this like kind of really like underground cult piece of like American cinema that everyone needs to go and watch immediately after this because it's criminal. People still don't know about Paris is Burning. But when Pose was being talked about and you know it was a conversation like, ooh, Ryan Murphy, of course Ryan Murphy's gonna do it because Ryan Murphy gets it. It was like, well, what is this gonna be about? Then we have season 1 premiere, and it's like, wow. Season 2 comes around, global phenomenon. Every single character on the show, and I was talking to Haley Sahar yesterday about this.
My girl, my sister.
Yes, yes. Ryan and Steven and everyone, they have written these characters that are equally as important to each other, right? There's not one like leading lady. It's all like everyone's leading something with a very well thought out, nuanced, and important story to tell. The genesis of Candy, and I also want to talk about I Never Knew a Love Like This Before episode because there wasn't a dry eye in the room, on social media, or around the world. But we'll get to that. But conceptualizing Candy, how was Candy born?
You know, Candy was born honestly just the moment Ryan Murphy met me. And I say that because I did a self-tape audition tape with Blanca. Mm-hmm. That was the role that they were auditioning for. So I did Blanca. I got my call back. I happened to, you know, had certain ideas and fantasies about New York. So when I got to New York for my callback audition, had all in my brain how this was going to go. You know, so I had my short 80s shorts on. I had my really high stiletto heels on, and I was walking to my audition in stiletto heels in New York.
Good for you.
And yes. And so when I got to my audition, I finally got in the room, and there were 16 executives from FX, Brad Falchuk, you know, everybody was there. And Ryan Murphy's there as well. And I get to the chair and I stumble. And I'm like, oh, hold on. And I end up having a Charlie horse in my leg. And so I had these heels on and had this Charlie horse in my leg, right? And they're like, are you okay? Are you going to need a minute? And I'm just thinking to myself, wait, let me get this chair down. I'm just thinking to myself, oh shit, okay, but so I just knock into, I don't know how I just knock into character. No. I said, I just need a minute. And so I put my leg on the chair in my high heel in these short shorts, and I'm working out the thing. I said, I just need to work this out a little bit about, you know. And it was one of these things where I come from, many people don't know my background. I'm a theater kid. So I did decades of theater and a lot of improv. And so improv is all about yes and. Yes. Yes, I got a Charlie horse, and I'm still going to do this audition. You know what I mean? So like I got in the room and I started going into character and didn't realize that really was my audition right there. And after I did the audition, Ryan Murphy was just like, I want you to know you are a talented actress, and I look forward to working with you. I thought he was giving me a soft kiss out the door, right. You know? But a couple months later, I got that call that he wrote the role Candy after meeting me. And then even still, the relationship I've had with Ryan and Janet and all of them on set, you know, again, I'm an improver, I'm a certain person or whatever. So I wasn't necessarily thought of, you know, I wasn't.
You weren't a part of the original plan. You were an inspiration. Again, muse. We use the word muse. You were a muse for Ryan Murphy. When you walked in those stilettos, working out that Charlie horse, that evoked something in Ryan Murphy that thought like, this is what I never knew I was missing. Let me make sure I create this and bring this into my existence. And we're so thankful that he did because, like I said, every character just had their heartbreaking moments and a story. And you felt for Candy because Candy wanted to be loved. She wanted to be accepted in the ball. She was looking for a place to belong, right? And she was always, as you said with Buddhism, courage, right? She had the courage to constantly keep forgiving people that did her dirty. that did her
Well,
wrong.
think about it this way. Like, I think about Candy in this way. Because so many of my fans before they knew what the show was going to come out to be, my name was a little bit more recognizable than most of the names that were announced when they were first announcing it. So folks were just like, oh, Angelica Ross, this and this, what have you. So then when the show started, and I wasn't in it as much as some of them would have liked in the beginning, folks were like, okay, what's going on? And then when I started to get, and they started to get that I was playing sort of the underdog, or what was considered to be kind of in there, sometimes the ugly duckling, many of my fans were like, where? Like, like, where is Angelica playing this character that's not getting, recognized and blah, 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 whatever. But it was a very interesting thing to play and reveal for folks to truly understand, is that there are a lot of Candies who have the ability to, at their full expression, to live an Angelica Ross life. But they're not seen.
Right.
Oh, so it's like here I am full blown Angelica Ross, now embodying Candy, who people don't see it for walking down the aisle. They don't see this Angelica. They just see that some dark skinned girl that's trying to, get the attention, when we over here looking at. But the thing is, we had to play it out, because in the 1980s, or in that time frame, in the ballroom culture, it was very colorist. It was very, even though we created this space, because white drag queens would not give black and brown drag queens or give black and brown trans people and queer people their due. So we then ended up replicating the space. And this is sometimes what happens when an oppressed people go off to create something different. Sometimes we end up replicating or remodeling, or even creating oppressive structures of other people. So when I'm walking, so the Candies that are walking through that place aren't being seen as beautiful as the girl who, like, Extravaganza, and the girls
Dominique.
like, but I'm just even thinking about From Paris Is Burning. The light skin, like Extravaganza, and
it's the colorism is real, and we what happens, I completely get what you're saying. We have internalized, again, the trauma and the abuse that we've been given and shrouded in, and then we're spitting it back out, because it's, one, a way of dealing with that trauma, and two, we don't know, when in Rome, do as the Romans, right? So it's like, it's
for me, it's similar to the ways in which I advocate for all trans women, where here's the situation, is that we see a lot of people who want to support trans women who they are attracted to, or who they believe have a successful transition because they look commercially, viable for the very high standards of women. But the reality is, there are trans women who are just as much trans women as I am, but aren't 5'6", aren't 120 pounds, aren't like, don't fit in a certain mode. Yeah, look at me just dropping those facts like that. But like, I don't have those things or whatever. But they still deserve respect. They still deserve to be treated as the women that they are. So it's kind of the similar thing, that it's a little late for us to celebrate Candy as the star that she is, for her to at least feel it. You know what I mean? But she was always that star that we saw in that final moment.
2019 saw close to 30 people of the trans experience murdered. Many of those are women and men of color. Candy, in the episode I Never Knew a Love Like This Before, which, one, shout out to everyone in the writer's room, everyone for the music, the nuance that Pose has to stay authentic to that time. I mean, only Ryan Murphy would have people making love to Let's Wait a While from Janet Jackson. I mean, only Ryan Murphy. But that episode, people were shook, because, one, it was a very real story that needed to be told. And it's so good that Our Lady J and Janet Mock, and they know they have people in the room that are like, this is what is exactly happening in this community. We're not going to sugarcoat this shit. We're not going to lie and make it pretty and make it smell good. We're going to give it to you raw and dirty. Reading that script, knowing that this was the end for Candy on Pose and in this way, how did you feel? Was it, I can only imagine there is a sense of vindication of being able to tell this story, but also a sense of deep pain because of the reality of that story.
Sorry, someone was trying to call me. I
No,
gotta
okay.
make sure that's one of my producers was trying to call me. Can you see, can you just text Jamarius real quick and let him know to text Pigeon and let them know I'm in a call?
Booked and busy.
Yes.
But just the depth and the weight of reading that script, knowing it's coming from a real occurrence and that happens to everyday lives, and also drawing from your own experience in the writer's room and reading that, what was going on? I'm sure people were also on the floor in tears during that table read.
Yeah, that was again it still is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Receiving the script for me, it was so many things. It was definitely a bittersweet situation. Because I knew what the performance was going to ask from me, you know. But I wasn't done.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I wasn't done. I wasn't done playing Candy. And I had to keep it a secret from the rest of the cast and crew. So I got the script for approval. They wanted to make sure I felt comfortable with the way things were going down as well. And it felt like it was ripping my heart out. Like I remember reading the script and just like tears pouring out of my eyes, and I was so afraid that I would not have the tears for when going on screen that I stopped reading the script. So I would make sure that I learned my lines. I would learn the lines very robotically. And I stopped reading the script through. And then because I just knew that it was so much emotion there that I wanted it to come out as fresh as possible. And I just, when we shoot an episode, they mark the weeks out, you know. So it takes a couple weeks to shoot an episode. And my first scene was watching my body get lowered into the ground, which was a scene that got cut out. So that was my first scene. So for a couple weeks before production, during production, after production, I have been in this state of mourning that I'm just now starting to be able to get a grasp on, a handle on. But I didn't stop crying from, you know, there were moments where I was laying in, there was a moment when Candy was in the ballroom in her whole Madonna getup, and she was like, bitch, I'm Bogan, Madonna, you know, doing this whole thing or whatever. And, you know, again, they're not seeing it for her. And she's like, you know, I'm a star. I know who I am or what have you. As she was walking out the door, I remember walking out that door, and when the doors closed behind me, I started hyperventilating.
Wow.
I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I can't breathe. They were like, are you okay? You know, I'm like, I can't breathe. And then I just started crying, and I realized the reason why I couldn't breathe, I was holding back a lot of the emotions. Because when you're an actor, right, some of the best acting, like, I'll give you one of like these acting tools that, you know, one of my acting coaches told me, but like when you're dealing with emotion and you're dealing with certain things, if you're angry about something or you're whatever, like anybody can like yell and be, you know, be loud and yell and anger or whatever. But when something is seething underneath you, or when, you know, there's something is just building, and that kind of playing that kind of frustration, for me, that was my note for majority of the scenes with Candy. I was playing a level of frustration that kind of hit a point for me, that I just started crying because I knew that it was coming to a close, and I knew that this was my last time in that ballroom, and they didn't see it. They're not going to see it. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I don't have the words to articulate how that just, I mean, the show itself is otherworldly, but that scene, those moments, that episode, the music, the celebration of your life at the end, I don't think I've ever seen anything on television like it. And I watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of TV, and it was magical. It was heartbreaking. It was everything that it needed to be. You know, and sometimes the most beautiful things are the saddest. And but most importantly, it was a story that needed to be told to bring awareness to what happens to people every day. And I think that's the win all around. And you're still winning because from Pose, here you are in AHS, American Horror Story. I mean, one of the things that's incredible about Ryan, loyalty. And how he gets the right talent and keeps the right talent and builds and creates these stories for the right talent to tell. He went on Instagram in August and said American Horror Story is going to start filming again in October. Are you guys back on set? Is AHS 10 around? What's going on? Can you talk about it?
You're asking me questions. You asked me the right questions because I know that people are listening. But yes, we have started back in like some of the pre-production stuff. There's a lot going on right now with American Horror Story. But we are definitely, I've gotten the first few scripts, and it is going to be quite the story. Ryan Murphy always has a way of making interesting commentary on our society.
He does.
So this particular season is going to say a lot about. He's going to say a lot. Yeah.
Oh, well, in addition to that, I hope one day to have you be part of the Coven. I would love to see you be part of the Coven. That'd be incredible. Because for me, Coven was my favorite season. Coven and Apocalypse, because I love the witches. I think that it's been, I mean, every season's had its own genius, but season 3 and Apocalypse were like, yes,
I'm right there. I'm right there with you. You know, season 3 was my favorite, all-time favorite season, Coven.
Yeah.
I can't wait to be in the Coven and to do that. But I will tell you that Ryan Murphy has got some incredible things planned for these next couple seasons of American Horror Story.
All right, and we'll leave it there. I'll let you off the hook. I know you got to get going in a few. Angelica, you're a CEO, you're founder of TransTech Social. You have bridged this gap between being a techie and also giving back to the community. That was born out of survival for yourself. Touch a little bit on your initiative, and you being CEO and founder of this incredible organization.
Yes, I founded TransTech in 2014, and really, again, off of that similar time that I told you about, where I was in Los Angeles in 2010, thought I was going towards being an actor. Close that phone call. Sorry about that. Now my agent's calling me, so I know some good news.
Is it David at Buckwall? Tell him I said what's up.
No, yeah, it's not David, but Mike Carr. But yes, that's hi to both of them at Buckwall. But you know, when I built TransTech in 2014, it really came out of this space where, you know, trans people just have been, the experience is just getting fired from jobs. You know, having an administration, obviously not. I worked and had an opportunity to work closely with like the Obama administration and with Aditi Hardikar, who was the LGBTQ liaison at the time with the Obama administration. Things were looking up as far as me trying to help create a pipeline to employment into the White House. But TransTech really is this initiative to remove our mindset from this one-size-fits-all model around uplifting people, empowering people, you know, all these things. And I say empowering in quotations because I even learned that to understand to be somewhat problematic in the sense of needing to have a conversation that's more around self-empowerment versus, you know, power coming from an outside source and whatnot. But so many trans people have been kind of relegated to sex work, to the adult industry. And I was not special in that sense that I had to as well. Even, you know, Janet Mock talks about in her book, Redefining Realness, about how she had to, on the path to womanhood for many trans women is sex work. So for me, that ended up being a very profound chapter in the book of Angelica that taught a lesson on value in which I didn't know my value. I didn't know it so much that I was allowing everybody else to put a sticker price on it. I was allowing other people to exploit me until I learned how to build a website and exploit myself. And in these ways of saying, at least I was choosing how much, how fast, and, you know, and choosing the rate at which things were happening, to the point where I then decided, actually, I don't want to do this anymore. But I gave myself the grace of deciding that, instead of villainizing or, you know, making it seem like I was doing a bad thing. For me, in our in the LGBTQ plus community, we've always been a community of like sexual liberation and all these different things. You know, we've had sites like rentboy.com and all these other things or whatever. But when a Black trans woman is killed, I've heard too often folks from my own community ask, well, what was she doing?
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, what does it matter?
Right.
Because we are the community of sexual liberation and what have you. So what are you talking about? What does it even matter?
Yeah. Yes.
You know, and I had to talk to, the reason why I quit my job working for the nonprofit I worked for and started Trans Tech is because the white CEO who was running the company had the nerve, child, let me just break this down, had the nerve to tell me, Angelica, you need to understand. We are a poverty nonprofit organization. We treat homelessness and the hungry. So that hungry feeling in your stomach, that's the same. Whether you're white, Black, or trans, or gay, or whatever, that's the same. And I said, okay, all right, okay, I'll give you that. The feeling in the stomach might be the same. But let's take all those identities you just named, and let's set them on the street, all on the neighborhood street. Who gonna get picked up first? Who gonna have an arm wrapped around them first? Because let me tell you what, that white gay one over there, he's got a future in real estate. I'm gonna tell you that much. But no one's wrapping their arm around the trans girl and giving her better options, giving her better tools. So when he told me, he said, Angelica, you need to understand, we didn't start this out of the love for the trans community. I told him, I said, thank you for telling me that. So that now when I start Trans Tech, I want you to know I started this out of the love for the trans community. Right. That someone is starting this with informed knowledge about what we need, what our needs are, not just because you want to look good in an LGBTQ, you know, in the umbrella because you're doing trans things, but you're doing them inefficiently. Yeah, so for me, Trans Tech came out of this space of understanding. When I say tech, I also mean being able to swipe that man's credit card.
And look, we add that to the list of the accomplishments that stand for something that means something that you've contributed to the world and who you are, and being a woman of the trans experience, that people see you and they're like, wow, Angelica Ross is killing the game, and you are killing the game. And that's why I had to talk to you. Angelica, I've been trying to talk to you since like last spring.
It's been busy. It's been really, really busy.
I know, but we made it happen. The future, though, you have this overall deal with Pigeon. You're also doing things when really, because Instagram's gonna cut us off like in 5 minutes. But everyone, go to YouTube, go to Miss Ross, and look and watch Turning Point. I love the conversations you're having there. They're just raw. It's just you just talking to the masses.
You know, the turning point that we're doing online is youtube.com/Miss Ross. But honestly, that was something I just had to do because people were at me 90 going north. Angelica, can you respond to this? Angelica, are you going to speak up on this? You know, all these different things. And I was dragging myself across the internet on everybody's Facebook and IG and every kind of thing. And I was exhausted.
Dragging yourself.
I was dragging myself across all of it. And I was like, I could feel the calling and people wanting to hear something, people wanting to listen. So I was trying to do that. But with the Turning Point, we are actually pitching it to networks, and we have a couple of networks that are very interested in the show. And it's basically like, my bad.
Okay.
It's not exactly that show. It's basically 60 minutes if hosted by a trans woman. So just imagine us actually diving down into very serious topics like we have been on the Turning Point, in ways in which we have a much more produced dive down into it that will also include me speaking to, you know, very prominent voices who have something to say on the issue.
It's so timely, and we need it, and everyone watching is here for it. I think it's a great idea, and I love it. I watched every episode in preparation for our interview, and I think it needs more views. What the YouTube algorithm is some bullshit, but
you know what it is? It's really, honestly, it's this, to be real with you. There's an algorithm. There's also, you know, marketing strategies. There are all kind of things. For me right now, I'm in a lane right now where I'm just creating the content and putting it where it needs to be. Okay. We're not really fully pushing the marketing like we would or could on with certain things. It's really the fact that my stuff's already done. It's already written. So this is about folks who just see it and are already there for the conversation. They, you know, we're having it. This is the beginning stuff. I don't even really mind. Yes, I do want people to watch and to subscribe and to do all of that. But this is really for the real people, the real fans, the real people who are already in the conversation. We'll get to everybody else eventually, but this is a special time right now that's not going to, you know, that version of it is not going to always exist once we go to network. So really, this is just a special time for those real, true hard fans to get in now.
But with that said, though, no shade to the views, because look, I post stuff on YouTube and I get like 5 views. It's not why we do it. We do it because, as you said, it's a calling, and we in the conversation. Regardless of if it's pretty or produced or network, whatever, it's still vital, crucial, essential, and important to have that up. So thank you, because it takes work. It takes work to do what we do isn't easy. It's not easy. And people think we just get in front of a camera and it's like, boom, no. It's a lot of preparation.
Well, I have to commend you, and I also want to just commend you and give you a little kudos because, you know, I think I was introduced to you with the rest of the America in your skivvies, you know.
True.
You know, but what I love about you in that environment, I truly do, is your energy of just being able to own what you have, own who you are. This is what got me in the door. But you know, the thing is that it's so interesting because so many people would tell you, because you're so pretty, to just shut up. But to hear you speak. And when I started hearing you speak, and when I was like, oh, you have a voice. You know what I mean? And so thank you for not just resting on pretty, bitch.
Hey.
And thank you for using your voice.
Well, thank you. First thing, I received that. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a decade of trying to show people that I'm more than just some dude on a TV show in my underwear. But I also, doing this is, I'm passionate about what I do. I'm so grateful to connect with people like yourselves, who I'm a fan of, who I watch, and who, like, you know, it's so unreal, man. 2020 is so unreal, but thank you. And thank you for being on today. And look, don't be a stranger. We're definitely going to be celebrating you on everything you have coming down the pipe.
Please, yes.
And just keep on letting them have it, because
that's the program. That's the program. That's the regularly scheduled program.
That on heavy rotation, reruns of all of.
And I'm super excited. I'm super excited for this new administration with Biden and Harris, because, you know, as I've said before, I'm not doing a lot of whatever. I don't care about position and all that. I just care about real talk and holding people accountable. Biden and Harris both know I'm real. I don't say stuff just to be saying it. So hopefully as we go forward, they still respect, you know, because I just could not have my integrity on the line, looking like I'm trying to go after a photo op or position,
right.
You know, and when they always call me. You know what I mean? Hillary called me, but they always call. They know who to call Miss Ross. They know to call Miss Ross.
That's right. But you better call Miss Ross. Well, Miss Ross, I'm gonna let you go on and keep being fabulous and do your thing. Thank you so much for being here, and all the best and good luck with everything.
Thank you. You too. Have a great
You
one.
too. Bye.
Bye.